What's the difference between normal, everyday anxiety and an anxiety disorder? And at what point does feeling anxious become an indicator of something deeper going on? I'm Tim Box, and in this video, I'm going to be explaining how and why everyday anxiety becomes an anxiety disorder and what we can do to stop it happening. Let's do it. Welcome back to my channel, or if this is your first time, I'm Tim Box. I'm a mind coach, and for the last 12 years or so, I've been working with people to help them overcome all sorts of emotional and psychological issues, and in particular, helping them get control of anxiety. Now, many of you watching this video have stumbled across what I do via the TED Talk I gave a couple of years ago, entitled How to Stop Feeling Anxious About Anxiety. In that talk, I suggest that the main reason we become excessively anxious is because we've been told anxiety is an illness rather than just an emotional response. Now, since that talk has been published on YouTube, it's had more than 1.5 million views, with nearly 3,000 people leaving comments. And occasionally I take a scroll through these comments just to see the sort of reception the message is getting. Yes, I know that's a terrible idea, and for my next trick I'm going to Google some medical symptoms I've got just to see if it's anything serious. But here's the thing, for the most part the comments are an absolute joy to read, with people saying how the talk has changed their perspective on anxiety for the better. But occasionally there can be the odd comment where people are questioning the ideas conveyed. One comment I've had a few times, in truth about 5 people out of 1.5 million have mentioned this, but hey, as far as I'm concerned, that's enough to make a video about it, is the suggestion that when I'm talking about overcoming anxiety without medication or any other medical intervention, I'm purely referring to the everyday, ordinary anxiety that everyone feels, and the approach I suggest wouldn't work for those with actual anxiety disorders, which many would say are, in fact, illnesses and should be treated as such. So okay, let's break down the distinction between normal everyday anxiety and an actual anxiety disorder. To do this, we need to go back to basics. Anxiety is one of our emotional responses, and of course, it's our emotional responses that inform and motivate our actions. So fear steers us away from danger, and anger inspires us to right whatever wrong has been done. In the same way, anxiety gets us to focus our attention on whatever our mind deems to be the most important issue right now. That's its function. Sometimes it can be about something we perceive to be a threat, other times it can be something we need to take care of to avoid negative consequences. The bottom line is that, like all our emotions, it's ultimately trying to steer us towards happiness. This is why anxiety is important, and we need to feel it pretty much every day. It helps us get things done. Anyone that cares about their happiness will at some point feel anxious about something. So if anxiety is designed to be a problem-solving, action-taking kind of response, why does it sometimes become a life-limiting, happiness-ruining one? So here's the story of how normal everyday anxiety turned into something more. Let's say we're going about our daily business and our anxiety response is functioning just fine. It wakes us up in the morning and reminds us it's a work day today. It makes sure we're focused and we do enough prep so we're ready for the important afternoon meeting. And it even manages to remind us to pick up some milk on the way home. However, then something happens. It could be that suddenly something bigger than the day-to-day hits us, like a health scare for a loved one, or a crisis at work, or maybe, I don't know, a global pandemic, and suddenly we feel a little more anxious than normal. Maybe it isn't even a single thing, but a series or cluster of issues that add up to us feeling overwhelmed and doubting our ability to cope. At this point, we're feeling excessive anxiety as our mind attempts to get us to take action on the circumstances or issues in our life that we want in some way changed. However, maybe these new things are things that we can't do anything about and aren't just going away. After all, we can't heal those we care about just by worrying about them. We can't decide whether or not the company we work for goes bankrupt, and we can't directly do anything about how global issues progress. But this feeling of impotence and loss of agency might just leave us feeling threatened and trigger our stress response. So we might feel our heart rate speed up, our muscles tighten, and our breathing quicken. Now, going into a mild fight or flight state is all well and good. It's functional and designed to save our life in a crisis. But for this crisis, no amount of action is going to fix what's troubling us, so we just end up stuck in that state. This isn't really meant to happen. Fight or flight is a short-term burst of energy, and it isn't designed to be prolonged. So when we spend too long in a high anxiety state, it can have a physical impact. This then might lead to other physical symptoms such as muscle pains and shifts in our sensory perception. None of these are permanent, but that doesn't make them any less scary and confusing when they occur. At some point in this process, we start to become increasingly concerned about the way we feel. The main thing we're now anxious about is how anxious we feel and what this means for us long term. This is the point when we could legitimately call this a disordered response. You see, disorder means a state of confusion, and at this point, our mind has started to confuse anxiety as an indicator that there is something wrong with us. We've started to regard anything that feels anything like anxiety as part and parcel of those distressing fight or flight symptoms, which we know we shouldn't be feeling because we're not under immediate threat. This leads us to become anxious about the prospect of feeling anxious, which is then just reinforced by the anxiety that that thought creates. And the fact I've started to talk in circles means we've now set up that anxiety feedback loop you'll often hear me talk about. But if you'll allow me to use a musical analogy here, we've all seen old footage of Jimi Hendrix pointing his guitar at his amplifier to create howling feedback. This occurs because the pickups on the guitar, which are like tiny little microphones next to the guitar strings, are now pointing towards the thing which is amplifying those guitar strings, and thus receiving and amplifying the same signal over and over again, creating the feedback. Now, the important thing to notice here is that neither the guitar nor the amplifier are broken. One of them's just pointing in the wrong direction. This is what we do with anxiety. Nothing about us and our responses are broken. We've just started to pay too much attention to our anxiety response to the point where our concerns are now creating more anxiety, thus amplifying it into an endless feedback loop. But of course, the only reason we're paying so much attention to it is because we perceive anxiety to be a threat, and any threat demands our attention. So what's the emotion our mind uses to get our attention? You guessed it, anxiety. So what's the difference between someone who experiences everyday anxiety and someone with an anxiety disorder? Pretty much nothing, except the direction in which their concerns are focused. Anxiety turns into what some would describe as disordered when we set up that feedback loop. But in the same way that when the guitarist stops pointing their guitar at the amplifier, the feedback stops, when we turn our focus away from how anxious we feel, the anxiety about anxiety stops. And we can do this because in truth, feeling anxious is not a threat to our well-being, and it's not an indicator of illness. Anxiety doesn't require excessive concern because it's a sign of nothing more than the fact that we are alive and we care about what happens to us. And that is a healthy response. I really hope you've enjoyed and got something valuable from this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and if you have any questions, put them down there too, and I'll do my best to answer them. If you have got something from this video, then please share it with others so they can benefit too. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up button, and if you like what I do, why not subscribe to the channel for weekly mind management tips and anxiety advice. Remember, I'm also now doing a weekly live Q&A every Friday at 6 PM London time where you can ask me your anxiety related questions, so please join me for that. Also, watch out for the members area, which goes live any day now, where I'll be adding video tutorials of my full system for change with extra insights and exclusive live streams. But that's it for now. I'm Tim Box, Mind Coach. Always remember to be kind to your mind, and I'll see you next time.